before we start, meet the secret star of the scene.
This is a Longleaf. This is probably a 350-year-old individual right here, if not older. Longleaf could have lived to be 800 to 900 years of age.
William Shakespeare never saw a longleaf pine, but in his words there is an understanding of what happened to its habitat.
These are the forgeries of jealousy, and never since the middle summer spring met we on hill and dale, forest or mead, by paved fountain or by rushy brook, or on the beached margin to the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind. For with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport.
It's the kind of thing that makes scholars talk about Shakespeare as a universal poet whose words can be applied to varying places and varying times.
The scene as we showed it had a North Florida, South Georgia feel to it, though it is set outside of ancient Athens. Shakespeare's universality applied to places, and also to a sense of ecology.
Superficially, A Midsummer Night's Dream seems to be a romantic comedy about the sexual escapades of four couples. But when we come to one of those couples, the king and queen of the fairies, Oberon and Titania, we discover that their romantic problems have broad-ranging consequences, in fact, global consequences. We learn this about Oberon and Titania the first time they appear on stage in Act 2, Scene 1. Oberon accuses Titania of having had an affair with Theseus. Titania accuses Oberon of having had an affair with Hippolyta, and then delivers a long, lush, descriptive set-piece speech in which she describes the consequences of her quarrel with Oberon.
And thorough this distempeture we see, the seasons alter. Hoary-headed frosts fall in a fresh lap of the crimson rose, and on old Hime's thin and icy crown, an odorous chaplet of sweet summer buds is as in mockery set. The spring, the summer, the childing autumn, angry winter change their wonted liveries. And the mazed world by their increase now knows not which is which.
Now knows not which is which. I mean, one obvious thing to say about this is that from the standpoint of the 21st century, it sounds like a remarkably prescient anticipation of global climate change. To the extent that this passage reflects these kinds of climatological conditions, Shakespeare doesn't see it that way. Shakespeare sees the problem caused here as emanating from a domestic quarrel.
And this same progeny of evil comes from our debate, our dissension,
which is in turn triggered by a series of relationships with human beings.
We are their parents. And original.
So that there seems to be a sense in which these nature deities have been set at odds, have been estranged by the intervention of human beings into their relationship.
Now take away the climatological imagery, and what do we have? Humans intervene with nature deities and cause an ecological imbalance. What is Shakespeare saying about our relationship to the environment? There are plenty of local examples of human interventions causing turmoil in nature. One in particular would have looked familiar to Shakespeare.
These are called the Big Woods of Thomasville. This is a private property that has a very significant and important old-growth tract of longleaf pine on it. And again, it's estimated that longleaf used to cover 90 million acres in the southeast, stretching from Virginia to south central Florida out to eastern Texas. And today, about 3 million acres are left, a lot of that in public lands, but out of the original 90 million acres, there's only about 8,000 acres that have old growth qualities, have not been cut at some point during their tenure.
Shakespeare, as a playwright, lives in London for a couple of decades. At about the time that the easily available supplies of timber in the London area have been depleted. Timber, whether for building purposes, for shipbuilding, or for energy needs, grows more and more expensive. In effect, England is experiencing, London in particular, is experiencing in the late 1500s its first energy crisis.
This parallels what happened in the American Southeast later on.
Yeah, the Southeast produced a lot of cotton, but the real thing that was the major economic thing in the Southeast was actually the longleaf. They began harvesting it in the 1800s and was probably around the 1920s, except for areas in South Florida and stuff. It was pretty much over-harvested at that point.
The ox has therefore stretched his yoke in vain. The ploughman lost his sweat. And the green corn hath rotted ere his youth attained a beard.
This passage reflects climate-related problems from when the play is written.
Harvests fail and the price of grain skyrockets and people suffer from famine and malnutrition. It's a very bad time for England's agricultural economy.
The depiction of crop failures echoes the loss of longleaf habitat, where animals rely on a diversity of plants.
This is, again, one of the richest forest systems in North America. And if you were to take a huge step and have a square meter approximately, there would be about 30 to 35 different species of plants within that area.
Having lost so much of the habitat, animals that rely upon both the longleaf and the plants of the forest floor are on the decline. Here in the big woods, however, these animals have a small stronghold.
So again, start walking straight this way, parallel as you can. Yep, make some noise.
Make some noise! Make some noise!
Henslow sparrow, right. And to let you know, this bird, how many henslows have you seen? One. How many henslows have you seen this close?
No.
Birders go crazy over trying to get this kind of look at a henslow sparrow. So you're among a very elite group of people at this point in life. And if anyone captures this bird elsewhere, they'll know where it was banded initially and under what circumstances. And they'll say, what? It's a Shakespeare performance. What was that all about?
Yeah.
Next week, we look at Shakespeare the Nature Boy.
I like to twist mine up and make it burn a little longer.